Hello and welcome to this first episode of the Life Without Limits podcast series. Today we're going to have Dr. JoeBob Kirk joining us. And in talking with us today, he's going to discuss his background, how he found his calling for medicine, and specifically bariatrics. Now, Dr. Kirk is the founder of the Kirk Center for Bariatrics, and he's been our patriarch. He has set the bar for the standards here to ensure the highest level of care and safety for each and every patient joining our bariatric program. So stay tuned. It's going to be very exciting. We'd like to say hello and thank those of you for joining us in our first bariatric podcast. With me today is Dr. JoeBob Kirk. Before we get into the medical side of things, tell me a little bit about yourself.
I was born a long time ago in a small town in southeast Oklahoma called Stigler, America. Small town, when I lived there, population of probably around 1,000 to 1,200 people. My family had lived there since before statehood. They came across the Trail of Tears. It's a unique history, that small town. We're proud to be from a small town in Oklahoma. It is a unique trip from Stigler, America to where we are today. It has been a colorful journey. Medicine and surgery was not my first career choice. I'm a second career person. I graduated undergraduate degree in business and accounting from Northeastern State University in Tahlequah. I graduated a long time ago. At that time, I had a scholarship to OU Law School. I decided I did not want to be a lawyer. I wanted to build houses. I graduated on a Saturday and was building houses on Monday. I still like fixing broken houses. At a point in time, many, many moons ago, when I was still at home, I had that desire to be a physician. And I told my daddy, I told Doc, I said, I think I want to be a doctor. And his words I have never forgotten. He said, son, people like us don't become doctors. We were blue collar, working class, wrong side of the track, sharecroppers. It was people like us don't become doctors. It took a lot of years to shake that off. That people like us can become doctors. Just because we're blue collar, working class, wrong side of the track. Just how big an old boy are you? Let's just find out. I did not go to medical school until I was 41 years old. I was blessed with an opportunity. I attended a very small church, and we had a mission opportunity, and I went to Haiti. Changed my life. When I got back, I told my wife, Susan, family and friends, I had to do something. Before they pat me in the face with a shovel and cover me up in dirt, I got to at least try to be a doctor. Much to my surprise, a lot of my church friends and family said, we've waited years for you to make that decision. You've wrestled with it for years. But you had to unload a lot of that baggage from way back in the day. That people like us can become doctors. And I was very blessed. I did it in a very roundabout fashion. Took years to get there. I attended night classes up and down eastern Oklahoma and western Arkansas. I worked 60-hour shifts on the weekend as an orderly in the ER. I continued my construction company the entire time. We'd drive nails and pour concrete in the day and study algebra and biology at night, and then go into the weekends and clean up messes in the ER all weekend. But I felt I was called to do it. And if it's a called work, therefore it's a blessed work, therefore it ain't work. Things will work out. But I kept trying to satisfy myself with little bite-sized pieces. I went to paramedic school. I went to nursing school. Eventually, everything pointed, apply for medical school. And I was very blessed. I was accepted into more than one medical school. I got to go attend OSU, Oklahoma State University, in Tulsa. I got to stay in eastern Oklahoma, my part of the world. Graduated there a long time ago and was accepted into a general surgery internship and residency. I went back to my hometown as a general surgeon and served there 4 years. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no days off in those 4 years. I was presented with an opportunity because my family was still in Tulsa. And I was 100 miles away in Stigler. I saw my family on weekends, part of weekends, and I did not want to do that anymore. So when I said my prayers, if this is where I'm supposed to be, I'll stick. But I got to have some help. I got to get some relief here. I can't hold up under this. But if I get my choices, I want to go home. I want to go back to be with my family. And an opportunity presented itself. Said, hey, look, we've got a chance here to be a bariatric surgeon. Would you be interested in doing that? And I said, yes. They said, just like that? I said, it ain't just like that. This is an answer. So I don't have to hesitate. I don't have to think about it. And that was in 2002, and the rest is kind of history. One of the most commonly asked questions is, why do you want to be a doctor? The standard issue answer is, I want to help people. My answer was, it makes me feel good about me. I feel good when I help people. So we have double benefits there. The patient gets fixed, made better, and I feel better about doing it.
And why did you select bariatrics for your specialty?
I think bariatrics kind of selected me. My patients typically are underappreciated. They are eat less, exercise more, simple answers to a complex question. A lot of them have never been taken seriously as a patient. First thing we want to do is make that patient feel that they have worth, that they are of value. That is probably one of the number one priorities here. I want you to feel good about you. And then we got a good foundation to build on. And that would be something I would gravitate to. We need fixed. Doc, help a sister, help a brother out. Help fix me. There is no long-term cure. There is only treatment. So we get to fix this for life. That appeals to me because we build long-term relationships with our patients.
Tell me this then, it's kind of going along that line. What would you say has been the most rewarding story or moment that comes to mind for you from bariatrics?
The most rewarding thing about bariatrics is I get to watch the baby birds fly. I get to see people realize lifelong dreams. They achieve goals they thought previously impossible. They get to live their best life. How rewarding is that for them? And we get to participate in that. If even just a small part, we get to participate in those successes. Any particular success greater than others, you can't measure them in magnitude. It is progress, even if it's small. Success is success, even if it is small. There are big successes and there are little successes, but they are both success. So just to participate that in any which way, shape, or form or fashion has been very rewarding to me. It's very rewarding to the people in the program.
Is there a particular story that comes to mind, a particular patient you might use as an example?
There have been many with very many memorable accomplishments. We just lost a good friend in the program. He was a broken man when he got here, both in spirit and in physical being. He was a broken man. And we literally started upside down with this fella. I took him by the hand and we walked down the hallway and I put him in the office of Dr. Frank Gaffney with Oklahoma Heart and then told Frank what I had done. I said, this boy would be sick. We got to help a brother out. And without hesitation, Dr. Frank walked in there and we started at ground zero. This particular patient required dialysis. It just was amazing all the things this gentleman had to endure just to get an opportunity to go to surgery. He was a classic blacksmith craftsman. He could do things with metal that you would think were impossible. Good guy, was more than willing to share his story with others. He was a shining example of the little train says, I think I can. But his accomplishments after surgery were monumental. maybe not in front of big crowds, but for him, personal accomplishments and achievements. He lived his best life, and he lived it to the fullest for as long as he could. So I was very complimented by that, and was very complimented, but he considered me a friend.
Doc, thanks so much for sharing that and how much you care. To step back to kind of a bigger picture, what was the biggest challenge for you being in the medical field overall?
Bariatrics, the treatment of morbidly obese patients, was not widely accepted 20 years ago, not anything like it is now. The answer was, unfortunately for the medical community, and sadly enough for still some, the old eat less, exercise more. It is in your control. You let yourself go. Why did you do this? You can fix it. That's nonsense. That is not scientifically supported. The science community says, no, that ain't right. This is a disease process, and I have been on the campaign to get the medical community to accept that it is a disease process for a quarter of a century. Been a long time, but getting the medical community to acknowledge that it is a disease process has been as difficult, if not more difficult, than the general public population. They see it as they begin to shift their thinking from it's a self-inflicted wound to it is a disease process. Nobody volunteered to be a diabetic. Nobody volunteered to have high blood pressure. Nobody volunteered to have obstructive sleep apnea. Nobody volunteered, hey, stick another 100 pounds on me. I'll take it for the team. How did that occur? It's a disease process. Can it be made worse by behavior? Absolutely. As long as the United States has drive-through and a buffet, I'm probably going to be in business because that makes a disease process worse. We are a culture of food. Everything we do is centered around food. And then lo and behold, we're going to have Thanksgiving. Gobble till you wobble is the term I hear. Then here comes Christmas. I have a business luncheon today. I have a business breakfast later this week. I have a business dinner. It's all about centered around food. We can do without a lot of things. You can quit smoking, know how difficult that's got to be. You don't have to have a martini with lunch, but you got to eat. And to learn and change your mindset and put the intake of food into a healthy perspective is a life-changing, lifelong commitment. It ain't the easy way out, I can assure you.
So, Doc, what would you say to somebody? What advice would you give someone that is at the very beginning stage and just considering bariatric surgery?
Someone new to the program, just going to consider, got a toe in the water attitude. I'll just look and see. A, no, it ain't the easy way out. You got to know that right off. B, it's a decision, something akin to marriage, childbirth, or joining the military. It's going to change your world, and it's a lifelong commitment. It's not, I think I'll run in and look today, kick a few tires, and see what I can do. There are programs like that out there. As long as you got a pulse, the body's still warm, and somebody's going to pay for it, you just met all the qualifications for that program. But that ain't the safest way to do it, is it? Safe drives everything in this program. We're going to shake the trees, peek around the corner, and I'm going to look under the rocks to make sure we've made it as safe as possible. We cannot make it perfect. We are human, so perfect is not available to us. But we can make it as safe as we know how. We have to make sure that you have made a correct decision, that bariatric surgery is truly indicated for you, that this is the right time, the right season in your life for bariatric surgery. You have to reach a point where you are at peace with this decision. You've got to know this is the right thing to do. We have to know it's the right thing to do. And until we reach that point, bariatric surgery is not an option, not a button we're going to push. It's not going to be an overnight process in this program.
Can you elaborate for us how bariatrics has changed over the time that you've been involved in it?
I did my first bariatric surgery training in 1997. I've been involved in bariatric medicine and surgery exclusively When I finished my general surgery residency, then a few years later, in 2002, I became involved with bariatric surgery and medicine full-time and have been there, dedicated a full-time practice to it since 2002. Has it changed? Did the sun come up today? Yes, it's changed. It's kind of like, what kind of car did you drive 30 years ago? It's a little different than the one now. You used to put gas in them. Now you plug them in. It's pretty much the same in bariatrics. It's better now than it was yesterday. It was better yesterday than it was the day before. It is a dynamic practice of medicine and surgery. It changes almost daily. Typically, it changes for the better. We overhaul this program on almost at least a weekly basis, if not a daily basis, always seeking better. We're not malcontents. We just always know there's room for improvement. So we're always looking to improve.
Now, would you say there's been transitions in this type of surgery? Like I know they used to be done in open format, and now it's
just the surgical techniques themselves are like night and day. First started in bariatric surgery, we did an open incision called an open laparotomy, and that was a big open wound from the breastbone to the hairline. Lots of suture, lots of staples, lots of drains. Typical stay in the hospital when we began was 3 days and nights following the day of surgery. Today, they're done laparoscopically, which is done with the cameras. Your largest incision will be about the size of my 2 thumbnails. Typically, there's no staples to come out. There's no suture to come out. There's no drains. And we've gone right now, the last count I got, our typical stay in the hospital for a patient following surgery is 1.1 days, which means if you have surgery on a Tuesday, you're probably going to go home on Wednesday evening if you meet the criteria for discharge. We are just not going to put you out the door trying to protect our track record. You got to be ready to go before we put you out the door.
So, Doc, I've heard you talk with different patients at seminars and things like that. And one of the phrases I've heard you say is it needs to be the right season of your life. Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
The right season in your life means, what if your plate's really full? One of the roles a lot of my patients play is they are care providers. They take care of everybody but themselves. They always take care of themselves last. Well, we had an example. A patient had a very ill family, not just family members, but the entire family were in bad health. She was the care provider. This was not the good season. I was putting to do bariatric surgery and change all that in her life at this time. The wagon would be too full to pull. There'd be too much on her plate. We needed to offload some of those responsibilities before we could make sure that she could be successful.
Now, would you say also you've seen examples where people have waited too long to get involved in getting themselves healthy?
Have I seen cases where people waited too long? That's correct. There are certain behavior issues that you're going to have to change. If you smoke, dip, or chew nicotine, we're going to know it, and you're not going to have bariatric surgery. I had a gentleman come in, was very ill, would have benefited from bariatric surgery, and told me, but I'm not going to quit smoking. Just not going to do it. I said, then I can't help you. He came back about 24 months later, essentially at death's doorstep, and said, okay, we got to do something. He missed his window of opportunity. He said, but I'm going to die if you don't do bariatric surgery. And I explained to him with a heavy heart, I will not be your executioner. To take you to surgery is essentially that's what's going to happen. You can't survive it. You waited too long.
Is there a particular achievement or accomplishment that stands out that you're most proud of?
When I first started in bariatric medicine and surgery, physician referrals in a year, I could count on one hand. It has been in the last few years that I can count on one hand the number of physician referrals for morbid obesity and bariatric interventions, be that many in a week. the medical community has realized, hey, it's a very sensitive topic. It's a very personal topic. It's hard to tell someone, well, you're morbidly obese. It's hard to tell somebody you've got cancer too, but you do so in their best interest. So the medical community is beginning to realize, hey, at the risk of hurting your feelings, I'm going to tell you, here's the solution. Here's what we can do. Here's how we can help you out. So I think that has been one of the things I am most pleased with.
So for those of you that participated today, I want to thank you so much for listening in and joining us for this. Dr. Kirk, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to share with us your insights and your knowledge. And I invite those of you listening to come back for episode 2 of the Life Without Limits podcast series. I'm Russell Vieaux. Thank you again for joining us.